Hey everyone and welcome back to a new video. So it's finally confirmed, Age of Sigmar's 4th edition is on its way and set to be released this summer. That's no surprise to most people, but it's still nice to have it confirmed. More importantly though, the announcement came with an exciting new trailer, showing off some of the new models we can expect to see and offered insights into how the game itself is being reworked from the ground up. There's a lot of information to cover, and in this video I'm going to talk about what we saw in the cinematic, what changes are coming to the game itself, and what we can expect to see in the future. If you're brave enough to join me as we roam through those announcements, then let's jump right in. So let's start with the trailer, which I have to say was exceptionally impressive. Looking back, the 3rd edition trailer was also groundbreaking for AOS, but this one upped the ante considerably, and it's clear that they found a tone for these reveal trailers given how similar this one is to the 10th edition 40k one. Effectively, they show off the new models coming in the launch box and lay foundations for the story of the coming edition, and I think it's fair to say that new foundations have certainly been laid in this particular cinematic. I won't go through every frame, but the gist of it is that following the establishment of new Sigmarite cities in Ghyran and Akshi by the Dawnbringer Crusades, the forces of Chaos have launched a huge counterattack aimed at bringing them down. We know Abraxia, Spear of the Everchosen, is set to launch an attack on the Gironite city of Verdigris, and that will be covered in Book 6 of the Dawnbringer series. However, Akshi's new settlement gets a warm welcome from the Skaven, who have ushered in the Hour of Ruin, the new epoch following the Era of the Beast, and it's around that 4th edition will be set. But it's kicked off with quite a bang, because the Skaven, who have been quietly scheming for a while now, have decided to raise the entirety of Blight City, the heart of their empire, to the surface for all to see and tremble before. In fact, we heard in the interview that this event, known as the Vermin Doom, has wiped out almost a third of the Great Parch, and now billions of Skaven are swarming forth to claim the realms for their own. As a side note, it's also been confirmed that the Horned Rat will ascend to become an official Chaos God, or at least join the Pantheon to the same degree as the Dark Four, and that's thanks to a pact the scheming deity has made with Archaon. No doubt we'll learn more about that in the final Dawnbringers book. But moving to the cinematic again, I really like the subtle storytelling at play. We've heard so much about the effects of reforging on the Stormcast Eternals, but never really seen it as vividly as this. This character, who may yet have a model to come, really shows off how jaded and disconnected the Stormcast become as they die again and again, functioning far more mechanically than emotionally. But in a way, that's exactly what the current situation calls for, because faced with an endless tide of Skaven, the Stormcast will need to put every doubt and fear aside if they hope to stand a chance. And of course, that's where the Ruination Chamber comes in. These are Stormcasts who have fought hundreds of battles, and with that lost almost all vestiges of their humanity to the reforging process. As such, they have been, until now, sequestered away by Sigmar, partly to be safe for moments like this, and possibly also to avoid other Stormcasts seeing what they will inevitably become. But in any case, we see these few members of the Ruination Chamber carve through much of the initial Skaven force and end the trailer set to bravely march into the darkness of Blight City itself, and I expect we'll see that setting up close not only in AOS's 4th edition, but perhaps other tabletop games like Warcry 2. Scanning for potential new models though, there are two really obvious ones, these heavily armoured warriors and another mounted one which seems to be a Ruination variant of the Lord Arcanum on a Griff Charger. More subtly though, we also spot the new Liberators that were shown off in the Realms of Ruin game, and a new look to the Stormcast Prosecutors given this smoother wing design. That's something I'm personally quite excited for, a rework of the older Stormcast range as opposed to more new stuff, and it could really freshen up some of those iconic units, particularly given some of the rules updates I'll mention in a moment. All of that said, given Stormcast have one of the most extensive ranges in Age of Sigmar, if the launch box pads itself out with a few Annihilators too, I certainly won't be complaining. On the other side of the conflict, we see a mix of Skaven monsters and minions, including that Skaven model that was leaked a few weeks ago and whose name I called out in another video. Check that out if you're keen to learn more. But we also see a new mounted Clawpack leader and what I suspect are a nod to reworked existing models, including Wartblock Jezzails and Rat Ogres. Frankly, Skaven have needed a range update for a while, and so I don't think we need new things necessarily to get us excited. Curiously though, we didn't actually see any new models following the trailer, so it's difficult to say too much with confidence having only seen a brief glimpse, but there does seem to be a healthy mix of exciting new models coming to the launch box, and I can't wait to hear and see more over the coming weeks. However, those aren't the only new things coming to Age of Sigmar, because we also got a brief interview with some of the designers who spoke about how the game itself is being updated. In short, like the move from 9th edition 40k to 10th edition, the entirety of Age of Sigmar is being reworked from the ground up, and it will be one of the biggest shifts in the game since it was launched back in 2015. What that means first and foremost is that at launch every faction will need fresh updates, and that will come in the form of free downloadable rules and purchasable cards, much in the same way that 10th edition 40k has done it. In effect though, that means every battle tome will cease to be viable at launch, which annoyingly means Fleshy to Quartz players will only have had a few months with their battle tome before it becomes merely a lore and hobby book. Personally, I'm torn by the decision. As someone who owns 11 battle tomes right now, it's annoying to think that they are being made redundant given the money I've put into them, but at the same time, things inevitably change, and they will still be the main publications for lore and hobby tips for many years while the new 4th edition battle tomes come out. As a heads up, while the faction rules will be free to download at launch, do expect to have to buy the battle tomes when they come out. The launch rules will be free, but Games Workshop hasn't given up on selling you army books just yet. Overall though, the changes coming to Age of Sigmar are all focused on improving the flow of the game while maintaining the tactical and thematic depth we've seen from past editions. For example, that means a bigger emphasis on universal rules. Ones like Champion and Standard Bearer, which are fairly common across multiple factions, will have their text shifted to the core rules, freeing up space on the war scrolls and making them far easier to read by only containing the pertinent unique info about those units. Similarly, abilities will be colour coded to make it clear what phase of the game they are meant to be used in, again allowing you to scan the war scroll quickly and spend more time having fun in the game. Interestingly, the way that was phrased in the interview makes me wonder if the command phase might also be changed or gone altogether. On the other hand, there are more profound changes. Weapon ranges in combat are now gone and replaced by a universal 3-inch combat range. This covers melee range, but also claiming objectives, how heroes interact with units, and how abilities can be applied. That could be a big one for many factions, including my Uruks, and I think we'll all be closely watching that one to see how it affects our current armies and tactics. And stepping out a bit, the spearhead sets we've seen in recent months are being codified in a unique way of playing the game. The broader rules and specific faction rules for Spearhead will all seemingly be in the AOS 4th edition launch box, and the intention is to create a way of playing the game in about an hour. Forces are of course limited to what comes in those sets, but it works off a card-based objective and ability system, which means that there is enough breadth to the game to keep it interesting while making it quick and accessible to pick up. And that was the key message from the designers. Age of Sigmar's 4th edition is meant to make the game as accessible to new players as possible. That isn't a surprise. I've mentioned before that Warhammer's head office have an ambition to make the Warhammer IP as popular globally as Star Wars, and that's where all the merchandise and TV deals come from. All of these changes seem to be aimed at simplifying the way the game plays, helping more people to get into Warhammer than ever before. Crucially though, the team did stress that the game will feel distinctly set in the Mortal Realms through the abilities and war scrolls themselves, so it's not a move to tasteless generic Warhammer by any means. Finally, they also made a point to say that they've spent time categorising units. That involved lining them up, looking closely at each and comparing them to one another to see what feels right in terms of wounds, armour saves and the like. That sounds very promising, and we could see some armies step into a very elite format that fits their lore and background better than they have previously. Overall though, we'll have to wait and see how all of this plays out, but I personally feel quietly optimistic. Yes, I wish some of the battle tomes weren't being shelved so quickly, but I'm happy to give GW the benefit of the doubt when they say AOS's 4th edition is the best the game has ever felt. But finally, what does all of this mean for the future? Well, in some ways I think we're seeing much of it in Warhammer 40k's 10th edition. We're clearly following in its footsteps when it comes to index cards and free downloads following a core reset, and I suspect in time we may see the AOS app move closer to the 40k one to keep new Battletome rules locked away unless you buy the Battletome. I do also think we'll see a similar approach to 40k's Crusade supplements, with Spearhead opening up new, quicker ways of playing the game and space for reinventing that around key narrative events. I think the Crusade format could work really well as a method of telling the story while also keeping that entry-level way of playing the game fresh and exciting. That seems to be the model the designers are particularly keen on right now, given they talked about how it's the most popular format for staff at Warhammer HQ. But your guess really is as good as mine. We're at the start of a new 3-year cycle, and while we don't know all of the twists and turns, it's fair to say we're about to go to places in AOS that none of us have been before. So that's a very brief look at what we saw from the Age of Sigmar 4th edition announcement and a few of my thoughts on the new updates that are coming. But what do you think? Are you excited by 4th edition, and what did you make of the trailer? And what are your thoughts about them simplifying the game? Let me know in the comments section. And if I missed anything, do post that below too. But as always, a big thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, please do click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to join me for future Warhammer videos, and I hope you'll join me for my next one. But until then, take care.